E3 is back, so if you are a big fan of learning about everything to do with the upcoming year of video games ahead, well, there's an event for you, and it is coming back in less than a month, albeit in a slightly different form. Whereas E3 used to take place in the Los Angeles Convention Center, it now is taking place completely online, and anybody can go. It's not just limited to the industry anymore. So that's got a lot of gamers excited. They can experience E3 from the comfort of their own house, or in a lot of YouTubers' case, like me, their YouTube studio, which also happens to be their bedroom. But I recently caught up with game journalist veteran Chris Stead, who actually has a little bit of a different opinion about E3 and why it's so important that we do have these physical events. I'll let him tell you why. Take it away, past me. Chris, I've invited you to this video because I want you to tell me about something I'll probably never go to, E3. This year, E3, for the first time since it started, is actually fully online, so there's no physical space. Last year it was cancelled completely. You kind of feel like that's a big loss, don't you?
Yeah, look, I really do. And I guess what's been a lot in the dialogue around this is that, will there ever be an E3 again? Is that the end of it? Because, you know, we've started to see a lot of things, events work well digitally. Some not so well, like the Academy Awards didn't work that well digitally. But there's a lot of people running events now digitally that never would have conceived of doing it beforehand, and it's working in a lot of instances. Yeah. But there was a lot more to E3 that people don't realise, and there's two main reasons actually why I think that E3, as the traditional physical E3, where everyone, all the media, all the developers, all the influencers, everyone turns up in LA for the best part of a week, is important. And the first one is about the importance of gaming taking itself like this really serious medium. Right. And you know, I've been working in games media for over 25 years. And for a lot of those years, less so recently, but for a lot of those years, gaming just wasn't taken seriously. It's never been taken that seriously as a medium. In my opinion, if you want to be taken seriously, you have to take yourself seriously. Yeah. And doing the big E3 fanfare, the big red carpet parties, the big celebrities coming in and playing games, the whole entire internet focused on this event, the huge press briefings with all those people in there, the chatter, the announcements, the hardware reveals, all of that stuff is gaming taking itself seriously, and that makes the world take gaming seriously.
I felt like there was something missing about June, July last year, even though some of these companies were still doing their own little mini press conferences online, pre-recorded, kind of like Apple does now. It definitely felt like there was less fanfare, and no one was really that into it because it wasn't all focused on that 1 week.
Yeah, and you got to. There's more to it than just the fans as well. There's a whole corporate side of things, you know. So like when you've got the other entertainment mediums, like the TV show guys and the movie guys and the music guys having these big massive events where big name sponsors and big name brands are brought onto red carpets and all that fanfare that goes around that's the entertainment industry sees those things as being serious, you know? Yeah,
and even people who don't care about the industry that much will see that event going on and be like, oh, what's that? Yeah. Like I remember my parents would call me nearly every June. They'd be like, there's some video game thing on TV. Do you want to check that out? I'd be like, yeah, I'm watching it now. It's all good. But it just kind of shows the world that there's this whole sector of the industry going on.
Yeah, and look, that's one part of the two I was going to bring up, and it's not the big part. The big part is that E3, it was never about what's happening at the show.
Ah, interesting. What's it about?
It's about everything that happens around the show. Okay, and this is one of the things that I think a lot of people don't understand about the way that the media and the video games developers and the publishers work and the relationship between them. So at an E3, yes, you're on the E3 show floor. In some of the really busy years, it's quite challenging. It's a huge space. There's two massive halls. There's one that's 2 layers. There's meeting rooms in every second spot. Sometimes there's stuff outside the venue. You're always running from one side to the other. You've got an appointment here, appointment here, appointment here, appointment here. You're getting shown all this stuff, trying to take some photos, trying to take some video content, and it's absolutely hectic like that, right? And everything's kind of orchestrated. Everyone's getting the same thing. And then you go out and you start having a few beers, and you end up in pubs till 2 or 3 in the morning, and you start bumping into developers. Oh, you're the guy who did that presentation for that game. Oh, you're from DICE. Oh, you're from BioWare. Or you're from here. And you start having these conversations and forming these relationships with these developers, which is not only gives you more insight and information, and you know, even a lot of that stuff is, you have a chat with someone over a couple of beers at a pub. That's off the record, right? But it still informs your knowledge.
Yeah.
It informs what you say. It develops that relationship, and then those relationships give you better access next time. You get more trust, and that trust gives you access, and you lose all of that when you've got a digital-only event.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like the vast majority, I'd say 80% of the stuff I pulled out of an E3 did not happen in the expo. And the other problem with a digital event is that everyone's seeing the same thing. So what you're really getting is different opinions on something that everyone's seen.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so you're not getting that the point of being a journo, right? You know, so like usually if I'm in an E3 briefing and I'm getting presented something by whoever it happens to be, it could be Will Wright or Ken Levine or who happens to be presenting something, and it ends and people start to go out, and I'll scurry down the front and get in their face a bit. Hey, sometimes I already know them from previous events, and I'm like, mate, got a question about this bit. Didn't really understand that. Are you going to really have co-op in this game or not? How's that going to work? Get a few more extra questions, a bit of information right there in the moment when you're actually on the coalface talking to someone. No PR between you. Nothing's been managed, and that's where you get the gold. The real insight. That's where you're adding information to the community, to the global understanding of that product. And when you've got multiple journos doing that at the same time, like those stories develop out for months.
So if those conversations aren't happening, like as a gamer reading written work or watching people's takes on the press conferences, what's kind of lost there? Just nuance? Like we're just kind of not really understanding exactly what's getting made anymore?
Yeah, so more so with the hands-on stuff. Yeah. So the press conference, what we see is what you guys see. There's been moments where we've walked straight out of that and started playing games. Obviously with the big hardware reveals, like you rush out of there and get straight to, like playing the Nintendo Wii for the first time, for example. Like I watched them on stage playing Wii Tennis, and then that night went to the Nintendo party, got backstage, and played it for myself, and I was like, whoa, it's completely different than being able to watch it. Yeah. There's all that kind of nuance just in the actual hands-on. Yeah. But there's also, you're there with a lot of really intelligent people who are either writing about games or they're making games, and you're in discussions with those people constantly for a week. Yeah. And the insights you gain as a journalist that you can then pass on to the consumers and the audience in large, therefore grows. What you learn grows. Your understanding of the product and how to interpret what they're doing grows. And you find out so much stuff. Yeah. And you're never going to get that on a digital-only event. Yeah. You just can't.
What do you think the solution is? Is there a way to kind of get those things out of an online event, or do you think we just have to start going back to physical? Yeah,
look, obviously there's a great reason why it's digital this year. We could never have been physical in 2021. Yeah. It might not even be out of physical in 2022. Yeah. It's a discussion of whether or not we need one going forward, which I think is the most pertinent. And you mentioned, kind of before we started filming that you felt like E3 might have been on the way out anyway.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of companies are slowly pulling back how much presence they have, whether it's press conferences like Nintendo switching to directs or Sony pulling out completely in 2019.
So this has been an ongoing decline, I guess, since the GFC. Prior to GFC, things were stupid. Like the amount of money that was getting spent. Like we're getting flown around in helicopters to things. And
I've heard the stories. I wish I was around that time.
And post GFC is going to kind of be a gradual decline, I guess, in the amount, game budgets have been going up. People are spending more money. And obviously the way that the E3 business model was placed for a lot of companies just wasn't worth it anymore. Yeah. They probably weren't getting the same media reach. Like we were moving to an influencer-based world for a while there, and that's a whole other rant that I won't go on. But that was a lot of trust lost there, I guess. Yeah. And that relationship between the journalistic side of things and the PR side of the gaming world was getting muddy, and they probably saw the loss of value in it. But those relationships were critical, and E3 wasn't so much dying in that people were finding different ways to engage with it. So you're getting companies that were going, well, you know what, you have your E3 over there. I'm just going to hire this giant hall down here and do my own thing in the same week when everyone happens to be in town. So like E3 didn't adapt to that well.
So obviously 2020 didn't happen at all for E3. What do you think would have happened if 2020 didn't happen?
Well, the amount of interest that gaming garners from that E3 week, we would have had 2 consoles for the first time, probably being hands-on and playable. that may have also forced Nintendo to do more.
Actually, that's a good point, because no one actually saw the next-gen consoles before they come out, right? Like, that's never happened before.
Well, yeah, it was very restricted.
Yeah.
And Microsoft released information about their console well ahead of Sony, and Sony kind of held on for a very long time. But the amount of it's a new generation. You know,
Yeah.
if we had that week with a new generation, all the information would have come out of there from the hands-on. It would have been mainstream, massive, and that's just going to change the investment, change the interest.
Yeah.
You know, like we can say what if there was no COVID. I mean, what if there was no COVID? We probably would have had stacks more units to sell and all that type of stuff. In the end, there wasn't enough units to meet demand anyway. Yeah, it would have been a whole different landscape, I think, because that would have been a great E3. I was going to go. I was going to dust it back off and get back out there.
Yeah. Oh well, maybe next year.
Yeah, hopefully.
Thank you very much for watching. Please do leave a comment below about what you're excited about for E3, and if you think Chris had some good points about physicality kind of being important to the industry. Of course, we will be covering all of the big news out of E3 in a month's time, so please do subscribe if you want to hear our takes on that. Also, if you want to hear more from the man himself, Chris Stead, about everything to do with the games industry in its current form, well, we have 4 or 5 videos coming out where I just talk to him all day about video games and where they're at, so please do hit subscribe if you would like to see more of those. They're coming out every couple of days at the moment. But that's all for now. I'll see you in the next one.